Over the last 5 years, we've seen an explosion of interest in luxury watches. But this interest has not been evenly distributed across the different segments of the watch market. In particular, we see most of the interest focused on high-end brands such as Rolex, Patek, and AP, whose most desirable models command significant premiums on the secondary market. We've also seen an imbalance of interest of sports models compared to dress models. The most in-demand models from these brands are consistently sports models, oftentimes in stainless steel. But there is also another imbalance which is less frequently talked about, and that's what we want to cover in the topic of today's video. And that is the imbalance between modern current production models versus discontinued or vintage models. We did a survey on Instagram last year on August 8th where we asked our audience if you prefer modern or vintage watches. And overwhelmingly, based on the responses over 2,000 participants, nearly 80% of you guys said that you preferred modern watches or watches that had been produced in the last 20 years. And this is reflected in the market as well. In the years leading up to the market downturn last year, we consistently saw that the top performing watches were the most in-demand current production Rolex Submariners, GMT Masters, Daytonas, the 5711 Nautilus, which was in production during that time, certain Royal Oak references. And I think not too much attention was paid to how discontinued or vintage models were actually performing. But we've done the analysis and the results might actually surprise you. What we've seen is that over the last 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year periods, discontinued and vintage references have quite consistently outperformed their modern in-production counterparts. I'll give you a few examples, starting with the most popular one, the stainless steel Rolex Daytona. So in this example, we're going to be comparing the reference 16520, produced between 1988 and 2000, the 116520, produced between 2000 and 2016, and the current production 116500 LN, which has been in production since 2016. Over the past 1 year, the 16520 has seen the best performance, dropping 19% compared to 24% for the 116520 and a decline of 35% for the 116500 LN. Over the 3-year period, it's been a bit of a wash. They're all up around 40%. And over the last 5 years, again, the 16520 performs better than the 116520, which performs better than the 116500 LN. Here's a chart comparing the price history of the 3 models. We can also look at the Rolex Submariner. This is the Submariner date with the black dial and black bezel, comparing 3 generations, the 16610 LN, produced between 1988 and 2010, the 116610 LN, produced between 2010 and 2020, and the 126610 LN, produced from 2020 to present. Again, over the last 1 year, we see the best performance from the oldest model, down 17% compared to 20% and 22% for the current production model. And also over the last 3 years and 5 years, the 16610 has performed the best. Here's a chart comparing the price history of the 3 models. Finally, this trend holds true not just for Rolex models, but also in some of our analysis of other brands, including Vacheron Constantin, and for this specific example, Audemars Piguet. So in this example, we're going to be comparing the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak with the blue dial, references 15300 ST, produced between 2005 and 2012, 15400 ST, produced between 2012 and 2019, and 15500 ST, produced from 2019 to present. And again, this is just for the blue dial variant. Over the past 1 year, we've seen that the older 2 models have performed better than the 15500 ST, although the best performing one is actually the 15400 ST. And over the last 3 years and 5 years, the 15300 ST has performed significantly better than both of the more recent models. Now let's talk a little bit about why this is the case and what it might mean for you as a collector. So when it comes to explaining this phenomenon, I think there's 3 main reasons. And the first one is obviously the question of production quantity. Of course, when it comes to discontinued models, no new watches are being produced. The amount of inventory on the market is fixed, or in fact can only ever go down as some of these watches are lost or destroyed. On the other hand, Rolex or any other brand is consistently producing new quantities of the in-production catalog. We might not know how many, but it can be assured that the total number of units is consistently rising every year. And then depending on the amount of demand in the market, that's going to have a significant impact on the secondary market value. The second reason is that, at least it has been my observation, that discontinued models have been less prone to speculation over the last few years. I think a lot of the speculation has come from new players entering the market, not necessarily seasoned collectors and enthusiasts, and it's simply harder. There's a higher barrier to entry of getting into discontinued or vintage models. There's a lot more research that sort of has to go into the process. You have to understand the differences between different variants of these older watches. Particularly when it comes to vintage, you have to understand what to look out for in terms of the condition of the watch, or whether the case has been refinished, or whether the watch has all original parts, stuff like that, which is more difficult for someone who's new to the hobby to understand. And finally, I think the third reason is that discontinued models, despite performing better over the last year and even in the longer term, still offer better value for money compared to their more modern counterparts. In all the examples that I gave earlier, the older models are still priced at a lower price point than the more modern references. And so when it comes to, the discontinued models like the 1/1 series, Submariner, or the 1/1 series Daytona, you can frequently find these watches in very good condition, and effectively there's not a significant difference in your wearing experience or in the versatility or flexibility of wearing this watch or owning this watch compared to the current production model. And so I think that some more seasoned collectors are looking at the situation with all the hype that's been going on with the waiting lists, the gray market for those models, and they're saying, I'm going to go buy a late production 116610 Submariner or 116520 Daytona and pay a solidly lower price and get overall a similar wearing experience, especially when it comes to models like the Submariner, in which case both the current generation and the older generation have effectively a very similar feature set, although the current one does have the upgraded movement. So what does this mean for you as a collector? First of all, I think if you're looking to invest or speculate in watches, the most popular models probably won't yield the highest returns in the long run. There's a reason that these watches are popular, right? They're not by any means bad watches. But when you think about hyped assets, you might think about, Tesla stock or Bitcoin. It's very easy for hype to overtake the intrinsic value of the asset. And so when the market inevitably realizes that, that's where you get the situations like what happened in 2022 for a lot of these asset classes when prices started to fall significantly. But if you're not looking to speculate, I think that the tried and true advice of buy what you like still holds true. But just understand that if what you like is the latest and greatest, is the current in production stuff, then you're more likely to take a depreciation hit unless you're able to buy one of these select Rolex, Patek, AP models at retail. But if you're paying secondary market prices, what we generally see is that these watches, for the first maybe 6 months or 1 year or even a bit longer than that, their prices will go down. And finally, I think a lot of collectors are trying to maximize value for money. They're trying to get the most bang for your buck watch. And if that's the case, then I would recommend seeking rare or underappreciated models, doing the research to find what it is exactly that you like that maybe is not talked about so much in the community or in the watch media. Even if it's coming from the most mainstream brands, there are oftentimes older, overlooked, less popular models that are not really talked about. So I'd be curious to hear what you guys think. Do you think that this trend is going to continue in the future? What other reasons might there be for this phenomenon? I'd love to hear all your feedback in the comments. Subscribe if you like the video, and I'll catch you guys next time.